I think if I don't want to, then like it's hard to choose apple. Either that or it's
While we get set up, I will just say that the voices do echo in here and the microphones will pick up conversations. But just keep side conversations down below. Chief of Staff Gomez?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. The meeting has come to order on January 22nd, 2026 at 7:08 PM in Milo Vale 207. Chief of Staff Gomez, may we have a roll call, please?
Regent Lysy. Here. Vice President Dry.
Here.
Manager PR Hammond.
Here.
Coordinator of Student Engagement SIP. Coordinator of Student Engagement Suryev. Director of DEIA Stephens.
Here.
Director of Finance Savage.
Here.
Director of Integrity Rhodes. Here. Director of Leadership Development Hills.
Here.
Director of Recruitment Brody.
Here.
Senator Acosta.
Here.
Senator Barrientos. Here. Senator Bishop.
Here.
Senator Clark.
Here.
Senator Ella Fry. Senator Idala Allison.
Here.
Senator Easthead.
Here.
Senator Jarman. Here. Senator Johnson.
Here.
Senator Lopez Pereira.
Here.
Senator Melgar Serrano.
Here.
Senator Mitchell.
Here.
Senator Piper.
Here.
Senator Potts.
Here.
Senator Shake. Here. Senator Swift.
Here.
Senator Tasneem. Senator Williams. Senator Wiseman.
Here.
FYLC Ambassador Perry. FYLC Ambassador Rodriguez.
Thank you. Quorum is present. We may begin. We will now move into consent agenda. The consent agenda includes the approval of tonight's minutes or tonight's agenda and the approval of the previous business meetings minutes. Are there any items that Senator would like to remove from the consent agenda for separate consideration? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Senator Johnson, is there a second? Senator Mitchell, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. The consent agenda has been approved. Next up is the Maverick Impact Award. Rachel Lacey.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have a microphone, so I'm just have to be louder than normal. It is a pleasure to recognize this month's Maverick Impact Award recipient, Grace. The Maverick Impact Award honors individuals who consistently go above and beyond in their roles, setting the standard for professionalism, reliability, and service. Grace embodies all of these qualities and more. Grace is professional, polite, and proactive in everything she does. She takes initiative, solves problems thoughtfully, and represents the ASC with integrity and confidence. Her punctuality and reliability stand out. She has never been late for a shift, and she consistently presents herself in a manner that reflects the high expectations of their organization. She communicates clearly with her colleagues, builds strong rapport with those who contact their office, and always treats others with respect and kindness. Whether working behind the scenes or interacting with students and staff, Grace brings a positive presence that makes our workplace better. Grace's dedication, professionalism, and commitment to excellence truly makes an impact. We are grateful for her hard work and proud to have her as part of our team. Please join me in congratulating Grace and our Maverick Impact Award winner.
Thank you. Again, just a quick congratulations. Can we please give her another round of applause? Our next item of business is open forum. Guests will have up to 10 minutes to address the Senate with any concerns, whether or not they appear on the agenda. Senators may also speak on topics not included in the agenda. However, please reserve comments related to list agenda items for their scheduled discussion. If you are here for open forum, please sign in near the exit before speaking. The floor is now open. If there are no speakers, open forum is now closed. Our next item of business is reports. The chair is seeking a motion to waive verbal reports and accept the written reports. Is there a motion? Senator Mitchell, is there a second? Senator Piper, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placards. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. The motion has been approved. Our next item of business is unfinished business. As there is no unfinished business, we will move on to new business. The first item of business is the appointment of Mallory Eklund as Director of Marketing. Is there a performance speech? Yeah.
Everybody, I'm Mallory Eklund. I am a junior and my major is business and marketing. I am on Alpha Zeta Delta. I'm with Alpha Zeta Delta for my on-campus activities. I'm the vice president of philanthropy for that. So I work directly with NCHS chair to figure out all their different philanthropy events and things like that to help raise money for our kids and this marathon. Right now I work for an architectural firm. I do their whole social media marketing. I run their website. I do all of their Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and just doing like website upkeep and stuff. So that is what I do with their marketing. One thing that I would suggest is doing like a one-pager, like an easy QR code. I do that with my architectural firm, and it's just a really easy way to get quite a bit of information in people's hands, but like in a relative manner to read it, like because people, see, people just don't go through a lot of information. So if you can bring it down to a few points, it's easier for people to consume, and then they'll actually do what to say. So that is one thing I would bring. Thank you guys.
Please sit down. Are there any questions for Mallory?
Feel like you'd be able to balance the workload from student government as well as the work that you do right now with the architectural group?
I would say so. I think I've done a pretty good job. I've already acclimated to my role in AZD for the vice president position. And I've like scheduled out time where I could do it throughout the week. So I think I.
Are there any other questions? Okay, if there are none, Chief of Staff Gomez, can you please escort Mallory out of? Before we begin, are there any conflicts of interest? If there are none, is there any discussion on the appointment of Mallory Eklund as Director of Marketing? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. Mallory Eklund has been appointed as Director of Marketing. Next up is the appointment of Taylor McHugh as Graduate Studies Senator. Is there a proponent speech?
Yes. Okay. Hi, everyone. Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor McHugh, and I'm a graduate student in the Master's of Social Work program. I recently graduated with my master's in criminology. And I work with children and families, just addressing the needs that they have and helping them to make everything better for them. And I see a lot of that on like campus and with the graduate programs. And also with the students who work on how we can make improvement by being more open and having like more hours instead of just having like a lot of things being like 8 to 4. That doesn't work for everyone.
Are there any questions for Taylor? If there are none, oh, Chief of Staff, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. Senator Costa.
No big deal.
No, I'm so sorry. I was thinking the next thing.
I guess I was just wondering, like, what about like SGA specifically, if you see want to become a senator?
Just like working with the other graduate students and making an impact and making some changes.
Are there any other questions for Taylor? If there,
Are there any specific things that you may have seen in students that you think like you could advocate for change or help?
Yeah, so one thing that I really liked about in the criminology department is the in-person classes. Most of them are also hybrid, where if you couldn't attend that week, you could attend over Zoom. For example, like that change to seeing if we can implement that more. And then also seeing if we can, around advising time, if we can get like advisors to like work different hours. So then they're not just set during those hours, because people have to take time off work, use their vacation time. So they can also do advising.
are there any other questions? Hearing none, Director Rhodes, could you please? Um. Before we begin, are there any conflicts of interest? If there are none, is there any discussion on the appointment of Taylor McHugh as Graduate Studies Senator? If there is no discussion, all those in favor, please raise your placard. Senator Eric. I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second. Oh, yes. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. Taylor McHugh has been appointed as Graduate Studies Senator. Next item of business is the SGA budget presentation. Regent Lacy.
Okay, hi, everyone. So sticking with our timeline, so last week, we all know that the 6 agencies presented their budget request to you all. And then it is now my turn to present SGA's budget request for our line items. So this is gonna be our 2026 budget request. So for the agenda for for the portion of this presentation, I'm gonna kind of give you an executive summary, kind of highlight, you know, some things that we're gonna look at for this coming semester. Some budget objectives, our budget request line item by line item, and then some closing, and then of course, some questions and answers. So an executive summary that I put together. So our 2026-2027 Fund 8 budget focuses on sustaining essential student services while ensuring responsible financial management. Plan prioritizes high impact programs such as student legal services, student agencies, and campus transportation, ensuring students continue to receive accessible, equity-driven resources. This budget also maintains operational efficiencies by keeping administrative costs low and strategically utilizing reserves to support key initiatives without increasing baseline funding needs. Through this presentation, we will walk through the key components of our 2026-2027 Fund 8 budget request, highlight the services and programs that it sustains, and show how each allocation supports student success. We will also outline the strategic priorities guiding our financial decisions, demonstrate how reserves are used responsibly, and provide a clear picture of how student government remains committed to delivering high-impact, student-centered resources. So kind of jumping ahead to what this semester looks like. So these are just some of the events that we're kind of looking ahead to this semester. This is not all of them, but this is a pretty good majority of some of the ones we're planning. I'm in the works with some people discussing a register to vote event that I will eventually bring to the Civic Engagement Committee. We are actively planning a student fees fair FYLC event, we are talking about some monthly pop-up events that SGA might do out in the atrium. Of course, our SGA Gala that happens every year, the nonprofits fair, iHeart NU Day, and then we're also thinking about doing some SGA roundtables. So kind of some like key objectives that the executive committee and I kind of wanted to keep in mind for our requesting our budget for this next year is one, affordability to students, making sure that we are committed to reducing financial barriers to students. We know that, you know, costs are at an all-time high for students as well as the cost of your education. So making sure that we're maintaining affordability for students. Also basic needs support, that is funding services like MavRide, legal services, as well as all of our agencies. And then also campus community and engagement, backing programs, events and student organizations that need help students connect, lead, and feel a sense of belonging. So kind of looking at the SGA line item by line item, some of these are pretty level funding, which when we get to the voting on, we can kind of show you guys year over year of what we were requesting last year compared to this year. Most of these are pretty level. Yeah, I'm not gonna walk through these one by one. I can kind of let you guys, I can pull the slide back up at the very end when we jump to questions and answers. Yeah, thank you guys. I wanted to keep it short because I know we have a lot of voting ahead of us because we have to go over each line item and of course all the agency budgets. I do want to pass it on to you guys. Do any of you guys have any questions about the budget request for this year? Or anything that I may have talked about? Sorry, that light is really bright. Senator Acosta.
We have the comparison number from last year. Did we go up or down or the same?
Most of them are a decrease. One increase for sure is our student legal services. We are upping that by some. That factors in a proposed 3% increase for the staff, as well as it includes a tax training that the student legal, so Jacob and his team requested that they would love to do a tax training to help support students in that area as well. But it will cover that training as well. But when we pull up the spreadsheet, we can pull up side by side like what was requested last year and then what we're requesting this year, if that works for you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I just have like a really quick question. Could you talk about some examples for the professional development?
So professional development, it really kind of varies upon what next year's SGA kind of wants to do. I'm trying to think if there has been any Director of Finance Savage might have to help me here, but if there has been, or Budget Chair Barrientos, if there has been any professional development expenses this year. You guys know if there has been any? Yeah.
My motion for change.
Not right.
Can you answer the question?
We're currently still in the discussion portion, or not, the questioning period for this presentation.
Yeah, so Advisor Brock, Senator Barrientos, and Director of Finance Savage, do you guys know of any spending from the professional development line item?
That would be. I have one moment, but I can.
Yes, we will get that answer for you and we will ensure we get you that answer before we get on the voting. Senator Shake.
The judicial branch, what is that? Is it just student court?
Yeah, so student court, that's maintained level funding. So each year we ask student court justice, Castro Gomez, what she would like the funding to be for the next year. Last year she requested 250, she got 250. This year she requested the same amount. So really on behalf of her requesting that thing.
Map bike, is that like on top of the contract we already have?
So contractually, Map Bike is that amount for us. And then the, as a reminder, Student Life and Wellbeing pays $15,000 to make it that $33,333.33. So this is our portion of that contract. I do really quickly, I do want to point out one other increase for sure is MavRide. So usually we pay less than that, but it increases every year and SGA has not increased theirs to cover the increasing expense. So this year we are requesting 3% more for that specific line item to help cover the increasing cost of the FRI. Kind of helping with like our, proportion of it. Advisor Brock.
So the answer to professional development, that was the food that's been purchased at the retreat, the swearing in ceremony. So that would be a total of $514.06 spent so far this semester or this academic year.
And then I'll pass it back to you, Senator.
The Mount Ride, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the partnership we have with like the Omaha Public Transportation System.
Yeah,
right?
so that gets all the students onto like, for example, with their MAP card. And then the MAP bike is with the Heartland Bike Share, where you can buy the $5 pass. Are there any other questions about this specifically? I do want to just point out, this is on the spreadsheet when we pull it up, but right now our request is actually less than last year, and it even includes the agency's budgets as they were requested last week. I can get you like a finalized this, like how much less when we pull up the spreadsheet. Are there any other questions for SGA specific budget line items?
So you mentioned like the tax services. What were you thinking about for going that route? Are you thinking about involving accounting students or an outside firm?
So our student legal services, they are an office that we fund, so that is 2 lawyers that are every student can use for free because of we pay them the 217 and then a little more because of reserves, but we get into that later on. So since Dee Dee met with them earlier last week or maybe the week before, 2 weeks ago, and they had brought up the ideas that this is an area of tax services that they really would like to get into, but just with funding right now, they can't get into it, but that is something that if that line item is passed as is, that they would get into representing students when it comes to taxes and tax services like that. So, or them being able to provide tax services to students rather than incorporating students into that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the only reason I said that is because VITA is a program that accounting students can do, and then they can do other people's taxes like their CPA.
Yeah, you know what the channel was? Jay will go over that. Yeah, that is just something, the tax training that they are requested, they didn't really go into specifics. A certificate or a license for them. So I don't know the specifics behind that, but that is something that they requested. And I think VP Rye can mistake me if I'm wrong, but I think that is something that I think they get approached a lot by students, but that's not something that they're able to help with. So that is why they're seeking it out. Yeah. Director.
VITA is just a little different. It's like you will go through firms and you get credit hours for volunteer for your CPA because you need 150 credits and you usually don't get that in undergrad. So that's kind of what VITA is. I think what they're talking about is a little different where they would help students.
Yeah, I did VITA in undergrad. That's why I'm asking, because we were able to do other students' taxes.
I wonder if it, I can't speak to this, but I wonder since it has to do with the legal side of things, I wonder if it doesn't have to do with like filing taxes, but more the like legal side of representation of taxes, if that makes sense, not filing them, but different things like that. I question that. I don't have that as like, that's what it actually is.
Yeah, so for the increase of the student legal services, would that also include so I know Jacob wanted to include some sort of like networking for you and those students to get that legal experience. Would that, I guess, be involved with it, or is that something separate of the budget?
Yeah, so I can, if you mention anything.
In our last meeting, he did not mention anything about a networking event.
Okay.
If that's what you're asking for. I will say Jacob prioritized or made sure that his office was not asking for a lot of money. He stuck with what was really necessary just to keep the office operating.
Right, for sure.
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe so I think there was that in-person networking opportunity that Pre-Law Society and Student Legal Services, and they brought a bunch of different law firms to UNO. I think that was pretty well attended. So that maybe helped his area, that networking opportunity. We can connect with him in the coming days and see if that is still something that he is wanting to.
For sure. I mean, what's it called? Because maybe that's just something that like maybe doesn't really involve money. Because we was going back and forth with someone because I wanted to like look into like some more experiences, but it's just like kind of wanting to like be able to have that like be able to like bridge like UNO students or recent graduates to have that legal experience. So maybe that's just something that's like out of the budget.
Yeah, absolutely. We can connect with him and figure
For
out
sure.
if that's with what he requested, so.
Did you say that this like next year's is less than usual?
Less than what we got last year, correct?
So if we were short on like a couple areas, would it be harder in the future to request more money?
So, right, so a lot of this is, so some of it, so student legal services, and also you will see that we don't have a programming line item. That is because, last year, the audit that, Student Government Association went under, showed that we were not in compliance with Board of Regents policy when it comes to our reserves, like we had a way excess amount than what we were supposed to have in there. So there's actually a 4 or 5 year plan in place where I think it's $85,000 will come from reserves to student legal services to help fund that. And then 15,000 will go to a programming line item. So that's kind of why we're able to request less this year. But as we, I don't say deplete our reserves, but as we work on getting our reserves back within Board of Regents policy, we will have to work on requesting more for like student legal services as we get back to where we are in compliance wise. Does that answer your question? Dr. Piper, did you have a question?
Not really, it was just about like the tax thing, so like for the bar association, his areas of practice doesn't have anything within taxes, so that's probably why he brought up wanting to like do that, because technically he probably wouldn't be able to really give any type of like advice per se without that certificate kind of being there, so I just wanted to give that like information that technically that's not his area of practice, so it's probably just a buffer to try to help with if anything that he mentions about taxes, he has a certificate for, so.
Can you explain the account and retainer one?
Yes, so the account retainer, so basically we have to pay an accountant, so that goes to paying them, basically. I do really quickly want to point out, I know this was something we talked about last week, is insurance expenses. So SGA does pay insurance for all RSOs to hold events on campus. So that that's why that $20,000 is there. Are there any other questions in regard to what's on the screen?
So that insurance expenses, that would cover our agencies too, which would make
Yeah,
them
it
agency
covers,
expenses.
yes, it covers all student agencies, it covers all student orgs. And of course, SGA.
I do apologize, that is your attendance. With that, we will now look at this spreadsheet. Is there any discussion on account retainer? Account retainer, any discussion, any questions? If there's no discussion? I do, if there's no discussion, all those in favor of allocating $10,000 to account and retainer. Please raise your. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. $10,000 has been approved for account and retainer. Next up is contingent. There's no contingency. Next up is dues, fees, and subscriptions for $20, $420. Is there any discussion on that specific line item? Regent Lacey.
I do apologize, so it does need to be 420, but I accidentally presented $300, so there is going to have to be a motion to make it the 420 if that is something Senate would like to do.
Senator Barrientos?
I would like to motion to change.
Is there second? Senator Shake, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placards. All those abstaining, please raise your placards. The motion has passed. Next. Is there any discussion on the dues, fees, and subscriptions for $420? Senator Costa.
Yeah, what is in, like, what are the subscriptions and?
What are the subscriptions? Yeah. We can say.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I don't remember that record. So subscriptions, that would include the Canva Pro that we're going to do for SJ, and then of course the 6 agencies. And then we are also, I think, the Amazon Prime membership, and I think that covers everything that is under our dues, fees, and subscriptions.
Then,
Senator Costa.
is that one Canva Pro for all 6 agencies in SGA, or are there separate accounts for each?
I think that is, so it'll be 2 accounts. So the implementation of this will of course fall into next year. So like the idea behind it is that SGA Director of Marketing will have one account, and then the other agencies will share that one account. They will each have their own folder. That makes sense.
Is there any other discussion on that specific line item? If there's no discussion, all those in favor of allocating $420 to dues, fees, and subscriptions, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. $420 has been allocated for dues, fees, and subscriptions. Next up is the insurance expenses that has been allocated $20,000. Is there any discussion on that allocation? Senator Jarman.
Just like kind of going back, because Drew had mentioned that it's gonna be covering all of the agencies. So I was just kind of curious what all that's gonna be like insurance wise, what is that gonna be covering? That if SGA overall is paying for it, why would the agencies need to be also covering their own insurance?
The agencies will be covered under our insurance. They don't have to request any extra insurance if that's what you're asking. Advisor Brock, as you don't have speaking rights, is there anyone who's willing to? Senator Barrientos?
I would like to delegate my seat.
Advisor Brock?
Thank you. The part of it also, the student government's tax and insurance lines cover all the registered student organizations. So that includes the agencies, it includes student government, it includes MAV Pro, it includes the Gateway, it includes portions of all the registered organizations on campus. So that's insurance for the attorney, that's insurance for liability if something were to happen at a student organization event, or is those types of insurance expenses.
Senator Marquez,
What is the deductible on the insurance plan?
Vice Rock, do you have a number? For Regional IC?
I can find.
Let's get back to you on that question. Advisor Brock, whenever you have that number. Please just raise your hand. Is there any other questions, discussions on that specific line item? Senator Melgar Serrano? I know that the EMS director mentioned that they had like an also insurance lineup because they're gonna do a what's it called, Dunkin' Debunk event, and like they're gonna have one of those like machine thingies, and that's why they needed the insurance. Would this cover that? Yes. I believe that was FGSA's Dunkin' Debunk event, but yes, if any of the agencies requested insurance, technically SGA's insurance will cover any event. Unless it's a political rally, then there is another charge on top of that. Mr. Rock, do you have the numbers?
Go to sheet 2,
Sheet 2.
which I have just added. Or 1. Those are the individual historical averages of the insurance different policies. No, that's so the general liability average would be that $7,351 is what's being the cost to pay for that insurance for this cycle. For this next year's cycle is the estimate.
Number 2, does that answer your question?
Not really. I was just wondering what the deductible was, like, for example, like if something happens, I know they'll pay a certain amount after something happens, or is our deductible 0?
Vice Rock? Regional IC?
So I think historically, I can only think of one thing that I've ever had to deal with that insurance would have had to, so for example, there was an event held by a club on campus and they actually ripped the carpet down the hallway. So insurance, we can't cover, we were able to cover the event, but we can't cover the damages that were done to the building. So then building insurance that Milo Bale has will cover that, if that makes sense. So it's not something that we as student government are having to pay more for, and 2, that student organization doesn't have to pay the insane amount of money to fix the carpet. In regard to deductible, I don't think that's something I've ever discussed with the business office. I don't think that was brought up last year when I was director of finance. And then in my meeting last week with the business office, deductible wasn't brought up. So if you would like, we can try to get an answer, but I don't know if that'll be possible at this time.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that if something happened, there was enough money for the deductible.
Depends.
Is there any other discussion on the $20,000 for insurance expenses? If there are none, all those in favor, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. $20,000 has been allocated for insurance expenses. Next up is the MAVRI program that has been allocated $38,110. Is there any discussion on that line item? If there's no discussion, all those in favor of $38,110 being allocated to MAVRI, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your placards. All those abstaining, please raise your placards. $38,110 has been allocated to the MAVRI line item. Next up is MAV Bike that has been allocated $18,334. Is there any discussion on that specific line item? Senator Costa?
So it's the Heartland Bike
Yes.
partnership, and then did that see any change from last year?
Is there any other discussions on that line item? Senator Mitchell?
I just had a question, because I know that this was a big source of controversy last semester. Was there any progress with anything that was resolved during then, or is it just kind of all the same?
It's just pretty much been the same. Yeah. Is there any other discussion on that specific line item? Okay, all those in favor of allocating $18,334 to the MAV Bike program, please raise your card. Those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. $18,334 has been allocated to the MAV Bike program. The next line item is office supplies, and that has been allocated $100. Is there any discussion on that specific line item? There is none. All those in favor, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. $100 has been allocated to office supplies. Next up is FYLC. They have been allocated $1,000. Is there any discussion on that specific line item? Senator Barrientos?
Does this entail like events and like okay, I just.
Any events or whatever FYLC wants to do, it'll be from this line item. Any other questions, discussions? If there's none, all those in favor, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. $1,000 has been allocated to FYLC. Next up is professional development. That has been allocated $1,000. Is there any discussions or questions? Senator Costa?
I have a question on the programming and branding. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Oh, I know we said we're pulling from the reserves for that. Is that like, do we have amounts that are gonna be for like year per year, or like, can we fill in compliments?
Rachel Lexi?
So if you just look, so programming and branding, if you go over
Oh,
from
it's right
reserve
there.
15,000,
Yeah, yeah.
right? No, you're good. And then that is, I think it's 15,000 for 4 years. And so we are now, this will be year 2. What we are requesting for next year will be year 2 of that. So this was our first year, next year will be year 2.
An additional 15, or 15,000 is for to split up over 4 years, or no, 8 per year?
Whatever 15 times, so it's 15 per year.
Okay, and then the 85,000 is how much from reserves is going to?
Right.
Okay.
Senator Johnson?
While we're on the topic of like reserves and stuff, you had said it was against Board of Regents like policy or whatever. Are we at risk of any sort of like punishment or anything because of that?
Rachel Lexi?
So currently, no, so we are working to get in compliance with Board of Regents policies, we were just out of compliance. So the spending plan for 15,000 each year and then roughly 85,000 each year is to get us back in compliance with that Board of Regents policy, so the auditors found we were out of compliance, and so we are just trying to get back into compliance with that. So there will, if we follow the reserves plan, which we kind of really, no matter what, like those are gonna be allocated to those line items no matter what. Because of the reserves plan that was signed by all of the parties at the time, so that was last year's student regent, Shawnee Adidam. And then the chancellor's designee, and I'm not 1,000% sure who that her designee was, but it's been signed for the next 4 years.
Last question, that like 85,000 for student services, for example, are we then requesting, what would that be? Like 160,000 or whatever, and then 85,000 is covering the rest, or is it 85,000 on top of the 270?
Regent Lysy.
So it'd be 85,000 plus the 217. Yeah. But we only have to request the 270. The 85 is already there.
Is there any further discussion on the $1,000 going towards professional development? There is none. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. $1,000 has been allocated to professional development. Next up is the judicial branch. They have been allocated $250. Is there any discussion on that specific line? There is none. All those in favor, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. $250 has been allocated to judicial branch. Next up is student legal services. They have been allocated, they are requesting $217,212. Is there any discussion on that? Senator, are you? Oh, okay. Senator Costa?
One more question about the reserves. How much was in there when we're out of compliance, and then what's our goal number? Like, what's the number gonna be when the 5 quarters are deployed?
Regent Lexi?
I think Board of Regents policy is 50% of what you were allocated the year prior. So we have to get down, so if we are to get what we are requesting for this year, we'd have to get down to $230,000. And right now, it's like at 400 and something.
Is there any other discussion on the allocation for student legal services? Senator Mitchell?
I may have missed this in the original presentation. Is this an increase from last year?
Regent Lexi?
Yes, so originally last year, we requested for student legal services, $200,000 even. So this is, the 217 number, includes, again, that 3% increase for proposed salaries that could happen. And then also the, tax training that they requested that they wanted.
Is there any further discussion on the request for student legal services? If there is no more discussion, all those in favor of $217,212 being allocated to SLS, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. That specific amount has been allocated to SLS. Next up are the agencies. I'm gonna move to here for their allocation requests. AMS has requested $2,000 for advertising and promotion, $300 for AMS resources, $550 for professional development, $100 for dues, fees, and subscriptions, $150 for office supplies, $10,000 for programming, and $3,000 for cultural student support center. Is there any discussion on advertising and promotion? Director Stevens?
I'm just wondering, in the presentation, there was about $500 for insurance, where that is in this.
Okay, if you give me 2 seconds, I can pull that up. I will. Lexi.
I would like to, I'm seeking a motion for a 5-minute move to group.
Senator Piper.
The motion to move the group of 5 minutes.
For a second, Senator Johnson, is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placards. All those abstaining, please raise your placards. The motion has been approved. You're back in business, guys. Let me share my screen then. Okay. This is AMS's application. Is there any motion or discussion on the line items or in her request? Senator Johnson. Yes. Would you like to withdraw your motion? Senator Potts?
I was just curious if there are dues, fees and subscriptions, like what that is, because like through budget requests, it seemed like a lot of the agencies weren't aware that like they were going to be covered under the Canvas subscription that SGA was purchasing. So I just wanted to make sure that wasn't like a redundant fee where AMS was also trying to buy. Yes. Okay.
Are there any other discussions on this? Adjournment?
For the programming section, they have, I believe it was $500 for their insurance that they have broken up.
Yes.
Would we then need, because SGA is getting, is covering their insurance, would we have to remove that 500 from what they're requesting?
Yes, that would be a motion if that.
And motion.
Senator German, is there a second? Senator Piper, is there any discussion on the motion to deduct $500 from programming? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. Motion to deduct $500 from the programming line item has been approved. Is there any further discussion on AMS's allocation? If there is no discussion, all those in favor of allocating $15,100 to AMS, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. The motion has passed. Next, is FGSA. FGSA is requesting $17,282.40. Is there any discussion on their allocation? Senator Shake?
Under the advertising promo and merch, I think at some other document I saw that they're allocating 3,000 to buy their agency branded quarter zips. 3,000 for quarter zips, how many and who are they getting it for? Or is it for the students attending an event, or is it just for their agency? Because that's a lot of money for that. Did they?
At least what's written on here is to provide it to students.
Okay.
Director Stephens.
So like a lot of that promo and merch is used at things like tabling, which is given away to like students. Like students do include like board members, so it is feasible that like a board member would get a shirt. I know like last year NDA board members got shirts, but we also gave like 300 away. So I think that's most likely what they mean.
Is there any other discussion on FGSA's allocation? Senator Costa?
I'm not finding the PowerPoint, but I think for their dunk tank event, they were also considering buying insurance. I don't see like a breakdown. So I'm wondering if that's something that needs to be adjusted or maybe they're what, they didn't. Did they make that up if they talked about insurance?
I don't necessarily see.
They might have, yeah, maybe it's not there. Never mind.
As I've not seen
No,
that.
whatever.
Is there any other discussion on FGSA's allocation? If there is none, all those in favor of allocating $17,282.40 to FGSA, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. $17,282.40 has been allocated to FGSA. Next up is NDA. NDA is requesting $11,000. Is there any discussions on NDA's request? If there's no discussion, all those in favor of allocating $11,000 to NDA, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. FGSA has been, NDA has been allocated $11,000. Next up is ISS. ISS is requesting $14,000. Is there any discussion on their request? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. ISS has been allocated $14,000. Next up is WGEC. WGEC is requesting $26,480. Is there any discussion on that? On those requests?
Sorry, could you repeat that again?
Is there any discussion on the allocation of $26,480 for WGEC? Senator Mitchell?
I thought they requested more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was like around like 40,000 and according to the presentation, right?
Yes,
Check.
yes.
40,000.
I do apologize if you. I'm definitely missing out on this spreadsheet. Yes, you are right. They asked for $40,280. Is there any discussion on that request? Senator Shake.
Could we scroll up a little up, could we go up a little bit? A little more. Under central health. Ovulation testing kits, that $100 allocated to that specifically? My question is how, I agree with everything else that it can serve the broader student body, how is that item specifically doing that?
Does anyone want to answer that question specifically? Senator Mitchell?
I'll make a case for it serving the broad population. When it comes to pregnancy, that should be a partnership. And I feel like the person, the man, has just as much, I don't know, like deserves to also be able to participate in a planned pregnancy. Yeah.
Senator Swift?
They're also used for just like menstruation tracking, like a period app.
Okay.
Similar, you put the test in the app so that it's like natural family planning.
Okay.
Senator Schwartz?
I will also say just in general, like if you go to like Walmart or something to get a pregnancy test, they can run up like $20. So in and of themselves, they're expensive.
Senator McHugh?
With how expensive a lot of the items on there, are they requesting enough money?
Unfortunately, the agency director is not here to answer that, but Director Stebbins, do you have?
So in all my conversations with the director of WGEC, they have not been able to provide a lot of this stuff this past semester. So I think while their requests are a little lower, it's in anticipation that they have some buildup of product. And then the requests may go up in the coming years for these kind of products. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Is there any other discussion? This allocation. Senator Shake?
We scroll down to the very bottom. Not very bottom, one second. Parenting supplies. There's 750 allocated to toys plus books. Again, can someone else make the case for that too?
Director Stebbins?
So a lot of their parenting supplies, it's not just about providing like what directly the child needs, but it's also about providing a more stable and better environment for those children. And there are students on this campus with children, so it's important to like ensure that those parents are able to provide toys and books for those children, which is not something provided by a lot of other resources on campus for them. And
So
that
are they
can
giving it away
Senator
or,
Shake.
sorry,
Senator Shake?
I'm so sorry. So are they giving them away or are they buying them and grouping them in a space where the kids are coming and taken care of?
Director
So all of these supplies are giveaways, so a lot of it's in partnership with the Maverick Food Pantry, where students can come and get what they need. Some of it, like pregnancy supplies and like Plan B, are done out of the WGEC office, and people fill out a form to request those items. But it is open to all students as long as they are students on campus. Doesn't matter how many credit hours they're taking, from my understanding. So yes, those are giveaways.
Senator Bishop?
I just also want to make the point that toys and books, while it may on the surface not look like a necessity, can be really important for the developmental health of a child. And since we're our university and focused on education, I think building those bases for the kids of students here is really important. That's my thought on that.
Is there any further discussion on this allocation? Senator Johnson?
I will also say that, especially last semester, the civic engagement committee was talking a lot about how to accommodate non-traditional students a lot better. So this is a great way to do that.
Senator Lopez Berger.
Yeah, also going on back on that too, we also have seen last semester a lot of statistical data of how the literacy rates regarding K through 12 have been very low. So I would hope that with these products, it would help encourage just improve that rate up more.
Is there any further discussion on this? Senator McHugh?
Have they also applied for any community grants?
I am not exactly sure. Director Stefan, do you have that answer?
Have they applied for what?
Any community grants?
So their not the birth control, the Plan B was actually sponsored by a community grant, and they have a stash of that was sponsored by that. I don't know if that will continue moving forward, but they are using some of that right now. So yes, in the past they have.
Regent Lindsay?
I do think Senator McHugh brings up a good point, going, if you could scroll back up. I don't know if there's enough allocated, oh, sorry, go up a little bit more. I don't know if 1,000 is enough allocation wise for the pregnancy test, condom, loop, dental dams, UTI and ovulation testing kits. I'd actually like to seek a motion to increase WGEC funding to $41,000 even.
Is there a motion? Senator Piper, is there a second? Senator Lopez Ferreira, is there any discussion on increasing the overall total to $41,000 for WGs? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your placard. Those abstaining, please raise your placard. The motion to increase the overall allocation to $41,000 has been approved. Is there any further discussion on Senator Johnson?
Are we gonna put that $720 for the pregnancy test in that block, or just distributed amongst those? That's all just.
I believe the motion was just to increase the overall allocation to $41,000. We shall see.
Yeah, my thought process was then if they run low in those line items, then they have that extra amount to cover those line items if needed.
Is there any further discussion on allocating $41,000 to WGs? There's no more discussion. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your placards. All those abstaining, please raise your placards. The motion has passed. Next up is QTS. QTS is requesting $19,485. Is there any discussion on their allocation? Senator Sheikh?
You pull up the slide or the spreadsheet where it says how much they've spent so far.
I don't have how much they've spent so far. I have what they want to spend.
Okay.
Director Stephens?
How much QTS has spent this year so far was around, I think at the last budget report, it was around 4,000, though they have spent a little more. We just don't have that because we are a month behind. Is that answer? You good?
Senator Sheik?
So then another question to Director Stephens. Did you plan for the rest of the semester to finish the remaining amount of money? Because that's a lot.
So, I can talk a little bit more about this later, but I meet with all of the directors one-on-one. And during this meeting, I'm meeting with each director next week, first week of February. That's our first one-on-one for this semester. I asked each of these directors to come prepared to this meeting with a plan for how to reasonably spend down each of their money, especially because a lot of the directors did not spend enough. Like, that sounds weird, but they did not spend their allocated money, and we do not want that going to reserves. So we are going to work on a plan to like reasonably spend down the money. Now, no excess spending, we're not gonna go wild. Like, we do want to reasonably spend down this money so that we're not having a huge chunk go to reserves, while we're actively trying, as Regent Lacey said, but we're actively trying to spend down our reserves to get back into compliance. So we are going to be having that discussion in the coming weeks.
Senator Johnson?
I don't know if this was asked last week because I wasn't here, but there's a couple spots. At least one where it talks about like sound and lighting and music design and stuff, and it's almost $5,000. Is there any way QTS could work with like the theater department instead? Because they have sound, lighting, and everything.
It just happens.
So this has been brought up in the past, and it was kind of answered last week by the director. But they have been going with Midwest Sound and Lighting, which does average about $3,000. So that is something that could be discussed, but not something that I can super comment on because it is theirs. That is about what we spent last semester on the drag show. And they also request sound and lighting for Clear Prom too, so.
Is there any further discussion on Regent Lacey?
I actually have a question for Senator Johnson. I do think Senator Johnson brings up a good point in making sure that we are giving like our students on campus, like, you know, the experience of doing those types of things, especially if that's what they want to do. Do you know if the like theater department has that equipment that is like transportable into this room?
I don't, I could ask people, because I'm not personally in the theater department, but I have friends who are. But yeah.
Excuse me, Senator Lopez Carrera?
Yeah, I was, gonna go back, but I was in the theater department for like a good, like, first 2 years of my, what's it called, of my undergrad, and it looks to be, I feel like would be kind of difficult transporting that. Because of course, you know, they use all that, most of their equipment for, their productions, and usually that's already planned in place. Maybe if they have any extras, but if that, I feel it would be very difficult to transport all of that from the Weber Fine Arts Building to Milo. So that's just my perspective on it.
Senator McHugh?
Where's the $200 for the recital hall? Like, cause that sounds really cheap to me.
$200 for the recital?
Yeah, cost to reserve the recital hall.
You're asking where it is?
Yes. Or how do they get to the 200?
Director Stephens, do you have the answer to that question?
I don't actually. I was going to answer Regent Lacey's. I had a comment to make on Regent Lacey's
I
question.
will get back to that.
Sorry.
Advisor Brock, do you have any information on how they're getting $200 for the recital hall? You're right over here.
So I spoke with the director of QTS this week, and then I can speak only in terms of this year, but that they're planning a similar event in this academic year at the Thompson Alumni Center, and that is a space that does have a charge. So that would be my assumption as to what they're particularly requesting. It would be the fee to rent a space at the Thompson Alumni Center.
Director Stephens?
Nope. Just waiting to get back, if that answers her question.
Senator McHugh, does that answer?
Yes, it does.
Director Stephens?
Back to the sound and lighting, I think it's also important to remember that we do pay the sound and lighting people who run the event. Like, we do not do the sound and lighting during the drag show. Midwest Sound and Lighting sends 2 people usually, and they do the sound and lighting, they do all this setup. And I think it's important to remember that if we ask students to do it, it would have to be on a volunteer basis because we cannot pay them per like all the policies. So we can't pay them, and I think it would be kind of unfair to ask them to do that totally for free. It is a big event and it's a lot of setup. So.
Are there any more discussions? Senator Shake, you have reached your 2 speaking limits. Is there anyone, Director Rhodes? Excuse me, Senator Shake?
Thank you. In their presentation for the queer prom, catering 260, is that for every student that? And looks too little, not in this, but the presentation they had.
Director Stephens?
Catering is usually on a first come, first served basis, so yeah, it would be for any student who attends and gets there and gets food. They can't limit who can get it and who cannot, but as long as you're a student, food is open to anybody who attends the event.
Is there any other discussion on the appointment, or not the appointment, excuse me, on the allocation for QTS? If there's no discussion, all those in favor of allocating $19,485 to QTS, please raise your placards. All those opposed, please raise your placards. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. The motion has, QTS has been allocated $19,485. So now going back to the overall budget. SGA is requesting $463,047 for SGA is requesting the amount on the screen. This amount on the screen. Is Senator Shake?
Sorry, please continue.
Is there any final discussion on that? Senator Johnson?
I was just told we were already in a book for QTS, but on the document, on the spreadsheet, it says it's $25,944, not $19,000.
On the spreadsheet?
On the one in the SharePoint.
Commissioner Morinsky?
Just to provide clarification, so QTS, they requested their student worker wages, which is not something that they needed to request. So their operating was the 19,485. So on this SGA budget, each agency has their own line item as name of agency acronym, student worker wages, which is for each agency, $6,459. So that $6,459 was factored into their $25,944 on their original. So does that answer your question? So they're not being allocated less money, it's all there, just in two separate forms.
Yes, I should clarify, all of their wages are included in their final total. FGSA will get $23,741.40. ISS will get $20,459. NDA will get $17,459. Queer and Trans Services will get $25,944. WGC will get $47,459. And SGA is requesting that much. Is there any discussion on that general allocation? Senator Shea?
Because the salaries have not been discussed upon, can we do a block voting on that? The salary part for the agency directors?
I believe we are obligated to pay the salaries, but Vice Chair.
So Haroon's point is that the Senate has only voted on essentially the programming lines of each agencies. There has so far not been any discussion of the agency director's salary lines.
Okay. Is there a motion, not a motion? So just going back to the wages, is there any discussion on the wages? If there is no discussion on the wages, the chair is seeking a block voting motion for the wages. Senator Shake, is there a second? Senator Acosta, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. The motion to consider the student worker wages has been passed. Is there any discussion on the overall wages? If there's no discussion, all those in favor of the wages, please raise your placard. All those opposed, please raise your placard. All those abstaining, please raise your placard. The wages request has been approved. With that, is there any discussion on the overall allocation for SGA? Request. If there's no discussion, all those in favor of Regent Lacey?
I know that there was a question about reserves earlier and how much we had in that reserve. I don't remember who asked it. Maybe it was, yes, yes. So that reserves in red is our current number according to the business office last week. At $438,768.
Cool.
So that's where we're at currently.
All those in favor are requesting $463,047.40 from the SCBC process, please raise your placards. All those opposed, please raise your placards. All those abstaining, please raise your placards. SGA will be requesting $463,047.40 from SCBC process. Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, so by the power vested in me by the governing documents, the chair is placing SGA into executive session for the purpose of discussing agency director evaluations, and other matters. Only senators, executive team members, and FOLC ambassadors who have completed HR training will be allowed to remain in the room. Live stream will be paused for the duration of the executive session. We are now in executive session.